Welcome to another tutorial in which we are going to look at task 2 of the Cambridge IT exam, which was slated for May-June 2022. The second part of task 2 requires us to create a vector graphic image of this balloon. We are to use balloon 1 image that we created in part 1 as a template. We should use gradient fills to create the impression of curves in the balloon, the panels, and the text. Make sure the proportions of the basket and the passengers match those in this image. And we have to make sure the basket has a parking fill as well. Then we have to save the image as a scalable vector graphic or SVG as balloon 2, followed by a center number and candidate number. So as required, we will need Adobe Illustrator to get task 2 done. So to start with, let's all create an A4 size canvas. I'm going to keep the orientation on portrait, and in the advanced options, I'm going to change the color mode to RGB. Then click on create. Next, we were asked to use the balloon 1 image as a template. So the next thing we're going to do is go to file, look for place, and let's select our balloon we created in task 1 and click on place. Now we have a sample of the balloon following a cursor around. So to place it on the canvas, just click and drag across your canvas, and then you can use the corners to resize it. Hold down shift whilst you're doing that and place it on the canvas. Click away when you're okay. Then let's go into layers and create a new layer. Now let's select the balloon layer and go to appearance. If you don't have appearance, go into window and make sure appearance is ticked. And under the opacity, we are going to reduce the opacity to 25. Now let's hide all these menus. Go back into layer and then click toggle the padlock to lock this layer down so that anything we do to the balloon will not move it. Next, let's pick our rectangle tool, go into the properties and make sure it has no fill, but it has a stroke or outline. Let's increase the size of the outline from 1 to 4. Now make sure the new layer we've created, layer 2, is selected. And then let's draw our rectangle to fit the balloon. Well, I think my outline is too thick, so I'm going to reduce it from 4 to 2. Now I'm going to use the edges and the corners to make sure my rectangle fits my balloon. Next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to select the direct selection tool. Click and drag as you select the 2 top corners of your rectangle. So you have these circle handles only on the top 2 corners of your rectangle. Now when you bring your cursor close to them, you see an arc under your cursor. Click and drag inwards till the curve or the corners match the balloon, and then you release. Still with the direct selection tool, select your left corner. This time we are not clicking and dragging inward, we are just selecting this corner and dragging it to this portion, just to where the balloon ends. Do the same thing for this side, click and drag to the end. So we end up having something like this. Next we pick the pen curvature tool, this one, the pen which has a curve showing on it. Pick that tool, click anywhere on the left side, and let's try and bring out a curve this way. Do the same thing for this side, click and drag till we have a curve, an outward curve like this. Now we need to take out the inward curve, so we can click anywhere here and drag it inward till it matches your template. Do the same for this side, drag it inward. You can change the position of the anchor and release. Now if you are not okay or satisfied with some of your curves, you can still click and reshape it. Click and reshape till you have your balloon shape. If you're okay with it, you press V or escape to go back to your selection tool. Now let's create the divisions on our balloon which will serve as vertical panels. And to do that, we are going to create symmetrical duplicates, each one smaller than the other, till we get the required number of panels. So with our shape selected, we go to Edit, Copy, go to Edit once again, and we select Paste in Place. Now we click in and drag by the side slightly. And do the same from the left. So I'm going to do this repeatedly till we get the required number of panels. The last division will be a vertical line running through the middle. So I'm going to pick my line tool. I hold down Shift and click and draw a straight line down my balloon. Now we need to take care of the horizontal panels, and to do that we pick our rectangle tool, and in the properties we still ensure that there is no fill, but we have our stroke. Now I'm going to draw my rectangle across my balloon like this, and then you go to Effect, Warp, and select Arc. Click on the preview, and let's reduce the bend drastically. I think 5 is okay. And click OK. Now let's go to let's go to Object and expand Appearance. Now we need to create another set of horizontal panels right at the top of our balloon. This time around we need another rectangle, but a smaller version. So what we can do is just copy this and paste. So with the rectangle selected, we go to Edit, Copy, Edit, Paste in place. Now let's reduce the size of our artboard by pressing Ctrl and the minus sign repeatedly. And with our rectangle selected, let's drag it upwards. By this time around, hold down Shift whilst you rotate it upside down. Now press Ctrl and 0 to bring your artboard to a normal size. And the next thing we are going to do is to select everything, or press Ctrl A. And we are going to use the shape builder tool in unifying or removing shapes that are not needed in our project. So if it's a shape that we don't need, we hold down the Alt key and then the positive sign beneath our cursor changes to negative. It means we don't need that whole portion. So to begin with, I'm going to hold down Alt and click on this part of this rectangle, because all we need is this portion. Hold down negative and take out this as well, and the one on the right too. And some of the vertical panels run right from the top to the bottom of the balloon. So I'm going to, with the positive sign showing, just click and draw across those areas like this. Do the same thing for this panel. And for this one, so it's every other panel. And for the last one, I'll need to zoom in. Like this. Then you press Ctrl and 0 to come back to our normal size. Now I need to take out the line here as well. So I can press the negative sign or the Alt just to take out the excess line at the top. And when you are done, just press V or Escape to bring back your selection or your move tool. So there we have it. We have the panels or the divisions for our balloon. Next, we can look at how to reshape them and color them. Now we need to add another division to the bottom part of our balloon. When we refer to the question paper, we see this triangular which covers up the bottom part of our panels. And to do that, I'm once again going to pick the rectangle tool and draw a rectangle just beneath like this. Next, I'll pick my curvature tool and let me zoom in a little bit. I'm going to double click on this portion of the line and click and drag till I have a curve shape like this. I'm going to zoom out, select the bottom part of the balloon and the shape I've just drawn. Then I'm going to pick my shape builder tool, hold down Alt whilst I take out these portions, and I'm going to draw across all these areas because I want them to be unified. Let me zoom in to be sure. Now I've covered every part. This and this. Now I can use my move or my selection tool to isolate this out or to delete it, and there we have our shape at the bottom. I'm going to zoom out once again, and let's create the colors this time that we may need. So I'm going to create a color palette on the left side of my artboard like this, with a stroke of 2 and a fill color of gray. Now there's another set of panels, so I'm going to create a duplicate for this. Just hold Alt and drag down. And in this case, we're going to have the gray, but we're going to have a gray and black because it's a gradient. So let me redo what I just did. I went into the gradients panel here, then I clicked and drag our fill color, which is the gray, drag it onto the slide, take out the white by just selecting and then dragging it down. Now let's pull our gray to the far end and then change the gradient type to radial. And let's invert it the other way around because this is how we want it, correct? Now we're going to create another panel. So I'm going to hold down Alt whilst it's selected and drag down so I have another copy. Go back into the gradient tool again. This time it's going to be black and red. So I need to double click on this gray so that it brings up color panel, and I select red. I'm going to invert this. I need it this way, and I'll need another palette. It's going to be red and black as you, but this time around the gradient type is going to be linear, so I'm going to have it this way. And I think we are done with the set of colors we might need. Now I think we might need the opposite of this as well, so I'm going to drag this down and create an inverse of this. Now before we add colors to our panels, we still need to make some minor changes to the look and feel. To give it that inflated look, we are going to need to add some curves to the edges of the panels. And once again, we are going to fall on the curvature tool to help us in achieving this. So I'm going to pick my curvature tool, and let me demonstrate once again how it's done. Let me zoom in first. So I'm going to click on this edge of the palette once to make the selection, and then on that point again I'm going to double click, and on the second click I drag it up a bit to form my curve. I'm going to repeat that process for this side. Click on the anchor point once, come back, double click, and drag it up a bit. So I'm going to repeat this process for all the edges required in our question paper. I think we need to unify these two shapes. So I'm just going to select this area, pick my shape builder tool, and draw over these two lines. And the same thing will apply to the other side. These two lines, shape builder tool. There we go. So Control 0 to zoom out, and then let's go into layers, and this time around click on the eye of the first layer we created, which helped us in which formed the template on which we built our shape. So now our balloon is on its own, and the next thing we need to do is to start coloring the individual panels. So I'm going to begin with the gray. So all I'll do is pick my eyedropper tool. As I select the panel I want to color. So I'm going to make some changes to the gradient. So I'll pick my gradient tool and reposition the gradient as required. And I think this panel also has the radial gradient, like this. Pick the gradient tool and position it in such a way that they meet. I think this one also has the gradient. Let's pick the gradient tool and reposition it like this. Now let's deal with the red color. But before then, we have some gray panels to take care of at the top. and this. So for the red panels, let's begin with the one at the extreme end. I'm going to zoom in a bit and select the first one. Pick the red radial gradient. Click away, then select the next one. Pick the radial gradient for that as well. And for the one in the middle, we pick the linear gradient. I'm going to click away again. Select the next one, this one. And select the linear gradient as well. And the last red panel, I'll pick the inverted radial gradient. And this time around, I'm going to pick the gradient tool. Zoom out a bit. And ensure that my black slide pulls back a little bit like this. So I need to deepen the darkness around these ones. So to do that, I just pick my gradient tool, and when I see the plus sign, I just press on plus and ensure that the color is black. And move it a bit out like this. Once I move this one a bit further, then I repeat the process for this one. I can just bring the black slide in a bit and adjust this one as well. I'm going to select this one once again, pick the radial tool, and then take out this darkness, this black, and instead I'm going to push my slide further to the right. I think we are okay with that adjustment. Now we're going to concentrate on the bottom part of our balloon. So I'm going to zoom in on that section and pick the rectangle tool. I'm going to draw a rectangle down here. And let's not worry about the color, but what I need to do is to ensure that the corners of the rectangle are rounded. So I'll click and drag inward just a little bit, not too much. I'm going to pick the rectangle tool once again. And this time ensure that the color is white. Hold on. Let me click away first. This must not be selected. Pick the rectangle tool. Okay, let's ensure that it has no color, but it should have a stroke. And I'm going to draw a rectangle this way, downward. I'm going to select it, right click, arrange and send to back. Now we're going to drag our basket upward, and then we go into effect, and under Photoshop effects we look for texture, and under texture we select grain. Let's see what we come up with. Let's go back and try to get a brown color instead. Like this will be fine. Not a gradient, it should be a plain color like this. And now we go back into effect. Under Photoshop effects we look for texture and select grain. Then it will give you a preview of what is expected. Now we can adjust the intensity of the grains to our right here and reduce it as well. You can deal with the contrast as well. And we can change how it should look, enlarged, etc. I think I'll go with the enlarged, and then I'll reduce the intensity a bit and the contrast as well. Then we click on OK. Now there's supposed to be another rectangle just beneath a balloon here, so I'll select my gray and draw the rectangle just beneath like this. The gray in there is a bit lighter. Now we need to draw our passengers. With that, I'll just use the oval tool and change our fill color. Let me use this instead of the palette to arrive at something like this. That's FFD15F. Or FFB A5F, I think. Something between orange and yellow. I'll start drawing my passengers. Hold down Shift for the head. Place the head behind the body. So right click, arrange, send to back. Select both. Right click, arrange, send to back. And I'm going to select the passenger and the basket. Drag them down a little bit like this. Select a passenger. Go to edit. Or let's go to object, transform. And let's do a reflection. Then go to preview and select copy and click and drag that passenger in here. Now we need to reduce the size of our passengers a bit to accommodate that red button or red box. I think we will need another passenger pointing the other way, looking the other way. So I'm going to hold down Alt and drag and drop him here. It seems our basket and passengers is a bit large, so we're going to reduce the size. I'm going to select my passengers, hold down Shift and take out the rectangle, and then hold down Shift as I reduce the size of the passengers in the basket and reposition them where they're supposed to be, like this. Now I'm going to pick the rectangle tool, ensure that my color is red, and draw the red box beside the passenger. Click on it, right click, arrange and send to back. Let me press Ctrl and 0. So we are almost done with our balloon, but we need to add a line at the bottom. There's supposed to be a curved white dotted line here. So once again, I'm going to zoom in and pick my line segment tool. In the properties, I'll make sure it's white. I click from one corner of my rectangle and drag across to the other corner, and then I ensure that my stroke is white, and I go into this. Before then, let me pick the curvature tool, click in the middle, double click and curve it out. Now go into the stroke properties. Let me press V to escape and change it to a dashed line. I want to reduce the gap of the dash, so from 12 I'm reducing it to 6, and then I think we are okay. And let's pick our type tool to create our text. I'm going to move to the side, increase the size of my font. I'm using Myriad Pro regular, and I type increase the size so we can see well. Now I'm going to change this to an object, so I'm going to right click and select create outlines. Next, I want to add a gradient fill, so I'll go to my gradient tool and select this gradient. It is yellow and a bit of black. Next, I'm going to add an outline, so I come down here and select black. The size is 1. So it should have something like this. We need to add some wobbly effect to the text, so we ungroup. Now in so doing, we can now individually edit our text. So I'm going to zoom in further as we begin with T. Once again, we need to pick, we will pick our curvature tool. Double click on the side of T. Click and drag to our left. Do the same thing for the other side. So you have something like this. I'm going to use the curvature tool in distorting the other letters. So when we are done, we just select everything and place it on our balloon. We need to reduce the size further, so hold shift whilst we are reducing it so that it fits the balloon. So the T begins on the second left panel like this, and the H ends exactly there. Lastly, we will need to save our work as a scalable vector graphics. So before we do that, let's get rid of all our palettes we created. Then we go to File, Save As. Then we enter our balloon number. That's going to be balloon 2. We already have this here, so I'm going to change this to 2. And drop down the save type and select SVG. Then we click Save. Click OK. And then we are done. Hope you enjoyed this tutorial. If you have any comments and suggestions, you can leave them in the comment section. Till we meet again, stay creative.